So, Charlie, I did notice one thing that was interesting. I just noticed when I looked at your Twitter account. So today is actually your birthday, right?
Yes. And I tell people all the time I'm getting to the age to where birthdays don't matter as much, but I still get to use them as a free promo. So
I I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, at this point, it's just another day in many ways. And actually, it's kind of embarrassing for me the birthday kind of recognition or whatever you want to call
right,
it.
right.
But that's cool. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And
Yeah, no
likewise, it's
problem.
birthday.
Do you just want to kind of introduce yourself? Because obviously I know you, I follow you on Twitter,
Yeah.
which is really cool that I'm meeting with, because usually I meet with some people that I don't know at all, which is great, but I've been following you for a while. So do you,
Yeah, it's great we finally have a chance to talk. For me, I try and get it's interesting. I think within the context, within the lens of stories nowadays, but my story is really straightforward. Grew up here in the United States, fourth generation American.
Mhm.
Just really didn't have anybody that didn't have anyone in my family except for my older brother who did some sort of entrepreneurship. So my story is kind of just first job, working at a warehouse, for like 9.50 an hour, just paying through college, um, dropping out of college, starting my own company, and then continuing with entrepreneurship until this point. And I just been bootstrapping and coding so much that I just gotten so good at the coding side of things, and also have really been banging my head against the sales side of things,
Really?
and we're gotten relatively good at that as well. And that's maybe something we can talk about as a little bit more, but sales has
Yeah.
become increasingly technical over the years because of like cold emailing tools and automatic replies within LinkedIn and Twitter. So it's also very interesting to see how people that are a little bit more technical are also excelling at sales these days. But anywho, but yeah, that would be me. Just a person who just wanted to bootstrap. I've started a couple of companies. I started a nonprofit. There are a couple of other companies that I have in mind that I'd like to start in the near future. And right now we're just working on getting Razroo's coding platform and its ticketing platform out the door and turning it into an actual company that can make money off of its product. And I'm sure you know what that's like. So it seems like you're
Ye-
doing relatively well for yourself. So congratulations there. But
Oh, well,
yeah,
thank you. Yeah, we've bootstrapped Stammer in the past year from a couple of employees to myself and Ross and to about a team of 14 now. But I want to dive more into to Razroo, to be honest, because I've looked at that and I think I understand what it is based on the landing page and everything. But it's really interesting to me, especially which I think you've mentioned before in your tweets or maybe on the landing page itself when you compare it to AI. But I do want to mention one thing you said in a tweet the other day that actually really impacted me because we were going back and forth on something, and you mentioned that. And now, of course, I'm trying to recall it. It is true that when interacting with people online that negativity is not always a great thing to spread, right? Negativity is obviously negative and you got to remain positive. So is that a philosophy of yours?
that it's like the how to win friends and influence people, like never criticize, condemn, or complain type thing, right?
Exactly.
And that's just like a classic. Like we probably both like I first time I read that was when I was like 12, so
Right. Right.
I had this some person that was like, hey, this is a great business book. I was like, all right. So yeah, I think for me it's there's so many thoughts rolling around in my head as a bootstrapper to where I don't really think about I say it on Twitter all the time. I think at this point it's sort of whatever motivation I sort of need in order to get me through the day is sort of what I spew online in a weird sense. So whether that be like just working hard, like David Goggins taking the souls, or
David
these
Goggins.
Navy SEALs guys, or Jocko Willink, which is just discipline equals freedom, or if I feel more in the mood of being a little bit more having conscientiousness and diligence and fundraising or whatever, I'll probably bring up some VC quote or whatever. So for me, positivity is I'm very optimistic. I would say very purpose driven. So maybe that's the answer I was looking for. From an optimism perspective, I do feel the weight of like our startup might fail. Like next month or 2 months from now if everything goes sideways, so I definitely do feel that and I do brace for impact, but definitely do feel like I'll die trying, and purpose is definitely what drives me, and that's the human collective intelligence or just larger ideas in general, just make me get through the day and that sort of thing. So
Yeah, I totally get it, and I really like that you said that in that tweet because it's important to, I think, have some idea of like how you're coming across and to remain, as
that's
positive
yeah.
possible. So that really impacted me recently. You said most of the people in your family haven't done any kind of entrepreneurship type stuff. I mean, my father,
Large.
worked for a corporation for 30 years, probably one you've never heard of, Nortel in DFW. But that's how things were like done then. And I guess he was never bitten by the entrepreneurial kind of bug. How did do you know when you got bitten by it, or did you just always have it?
I definitely I do think I did have it. And I think part of it, I think it initially came from a place. I'm still trying to dig of where that came from, but I think, yeah. May I ask actually how many family members you have? Because it is helpful. Like I have 7 siblings, so like even the
Oh,
entrepreneurs.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have 2 younger brothers, basically.
Okay. So that's still something that's a big deal as well. So like if you have two brothers and you have parents and then you decide to do entrepreneurship, like everyone around you is sort of doesn't understand why you're doing it.
Right.
First and foremost, someone needs to build the companies, and second of all, there are a lot of really, I say this as a person who's consulted for a lot of them, there are really a lot of really bad companies, and the world deserves more better companies and better founder. You seem like you guys are building a great company. Honestly, 14, however, the amount of employees the guys have right now, that's quite the achievement. Hopefully, you get to keep building it into something uh, much larger. But with regards to the entrepreneurship bug, I do remember selling gum in middle school. I must have been in about fifth grade or fourth grade.
Mhm.
And I do remember having my merchandise like being stolen and then there being this whole thing. So that was definitely an early stage of entrepreneurship for me where I was trying to buy and sell gum. And then my parents got involved and the principal got involved and all that stuff. And then it reemerged later in high school where I started thinking more about technical products. And I grew up in Texas, Houston, Texas for me. So
Dallas.
for people that don't know Texas, it's like it's still a 2 hour drive. It's been a while for me. So 4 hours. So Texas is a large place. It's like much farther from New York to New Jersey to put in context. For me, it was interesting. The initial ideas I had were kind of like blue collar. It was like I was thinking of starting a toilet paper company, and I was starting.
Mhm.
This is like I think that's a great example of people that don't have entrepreneurship in their family already because you just sort of start dealing with the stuff that's around you. So it was like a chicken company, and then when I started going to college, started being exposed around technology. I actually wanted to be a finance major, I wanted to be in investment banking, not coding. And then I pivoted to coding, and then from that point onwards, there were a lot of smaller groups of people that we started companies with. So we had a charity platform, and then we had this technology nonprofit and digital storage company that we're thinking about with a unique UI and that sort of stuff. So
Mhm.
from about 21 is when I transitioned to tech. 19 to 21 was like blue collar stuff. I would say from really 11 to 14, I just was kind of like buying and selling baseball cards and gum. But from that incident, and also my family is a little bit religious, so it also impacted me. Religion played a large part of my life, and I thought that entrepreneurship's not what God wanted me to do. So
Mhm.
that was it. So early stage, there was this buying and selling phase, like chocolate bars as well. So it was that kid that sold a lot of chocolate bars and sold a little bit of baseball cards, a little bit of gum, got in trouble for it in school and the principal.
Yep.
And then there's this phase, started an odd thing to want to do, but a toilet paper company and then also a chicken company. I wanted to raise duck in particular. That probably would have been a very successful route in hindsight. And then I went to college and I started being exposed to tech. And that's around 21 when I started pivoting to technology companies. And now
Wow.
more than 10 years later, I'm still on the technology route. And that's been my entrepreneurship journey.
That's really cool. There's so much there. So for one thing, I didn't realize that we were both from Texas. And even though I'm from Dallas originally, I have lived in Houston. I actually still have a house there, weirdly.
Cool,
Hopefully the market kind of turns around and I can sell that soon. But
cool,
and I'm in San Diego now, to be clear. But
awesome. I was born in LA, so
really, oh man, so yeah, the selling the gum is really interesting because I think my co-founder Ross did the exact same thing, or maybe it was candy bars, which you also mentioned that. I don't know if these were still popular, but when I was a kid, they had these infomercials where they were selling baseball cards
yeah,
and they were trying to
yeah,
convince you that you could turn around and flip them, basically, right?
that's awesome. So you did
So
it.
yeah, so I tried to convince my mother to purchase those, and I was convinced we'd become, millionaires from that. Luckily, I don't think we did that in the end. But yeah, that I think that for a lot of people, like there's just something in you that makes you want to pursue these weird and crazy
Yeah,
ideas.
I haven't like gone down that rabbit hole enough, but that's super interesting to think. It's sort of a personality type. There's always something really messed up that happens.
That is really common. Entrepreneurship is like so hard, right? You have to have this weird kind of crazy drive to pursue it. And I think often that it's people that overcome some type of challenge in their life. How did you get exposed to coding?
I have a brother that's 8 years older than me that
Hmm.
actually was a coder, and he was a teenage coder. So I was already
Really?
exposed about coding. And my father, who by trade is a rocket scientist, works for
You're
NASA's
kidding. So that's why you're in Houston.
his background is actually in robotics and computer science. So
Wow.
at the home, you would see these C books on the shelf. So that's
Mm.
actually part of the reason why I didn't want to do coding was I'm like, this is so boring. I don't want to be like the rest of my family. So
Right. Yep.
it was such a weird place that in hindsight, it's like I realized how lucky I was and I should have taken advantage of it earlier. But so I started coding at 19, and my brother
Hmm.
actually taught me how to code in PHP, and it was sort of just my way out of Houston, Texas. Like I didn't have the highest paying job I had at the time was paying me $11 an hour, and I was like, I want to start making websites for clients. I remember myself as a seller before I became too technical as a coder. I just started getting into this technical mindset. I started coding in 2012, and or let's say that's when I started actually being able to build things. And I remember moving to New York actually, and been all around the globe. So I moved to New York in 2013 to go to Queens College, to transfer from Houston Community College to Queens College. And I got my first client in 2013. And then I got some government contract. And then I started getting a good feedback loop from the coding that I was doing, by being able to build products and being able to show it to people. And in hindsight, if I would have known about something like a startup, like a tech incubator, I should have just dropped out of college then and gone leaned right into the tech incubator. But this is also another thing when you're an entrepreneur that comes from a background where you don't really have a lot of entrepreneurs. Even though I had a brother in tech and all that stuff, he was doing his own thing with his own investor and his own consulting
Right.
and sort of stuff. But I didn't even know YC existed until like maybe 4 years ago. So, and that's like 6 years after my, or 7 years after my technology entrepreneurship thing existed. So, yeah, it was just a different time. You have no money, you're early on, you're trying to make as much money as you possibly can doing like restaurant job. It was a very interesting time. I would actually be in restaurants with a programming book, and then behind the scenes, it was a very intense period. I got my first internship already in 2000, I want to say 2014. And then 6 months in of the internship, I already dropped out of college just because it was really a money thing for me. Out of state tuition was expensive. And
Hmm.
then I started working. I found some company on Craigslist, paid me peanuts, and then I started just leaning into the coding thing. And that's how I went down the bootstrapping route, was just increasing my salary. I'm 33 now. So I think age is
Hmm.
actually important for the story to map things. So 2013, I would have been somewhere around 22. I think at that point, perfect time to put 2 or 3 years towards a startup that you don't really care that much about equity and long-term future and all that sort of stuff. And that's much more complicated.
Absolutely. It's weird how much I can relate to your story because my father was also an engineer. And growing up, I was exposed to writing code. And of course, just like you, I didn't want to do it, because my father did it and I didn't want to follow. I guess
So
you
funny.
know how it is. I mean, yeah, I
I
mean,
do.
I avoided it. I even knew how to code, but I avoided it for the longest time. And I got actually into finance, which is funny because you were going a similar route. But within 6 months of my first like real finance job, I was kind of writing code because they needed someone with those skills to build the pricing models, basically.
Wow.
So yeah, super strange how that, it's funny, but I think there's probably more people with this kind of story, people who grew up tech, because I'm sure you wouldn't have been able to code as well as you if you not had your brother's influence as well as your father's
Absolutely
kind of
not.
influence.
Yeah, absolutely not. It's actually it's kind of scary thinking about it. Like even like I don't consider myself
Yes.
upper middle class at all. Like we had so many kids in our family were definitely hard middle
Right.
class. And to think like you had opportunity that other people didn't because you had people in your family that knew how to code. It's like crazy to think about how yeah,
It's a huge
how
advantage.
yeah,
It really is. And yeah, similar background for me. I mean, we, did not grow up wealthy by any means. Okay, like middle class, but with three kids, yours is even, I'm sure, more resource constrained with seven. But yeah, still, even that advantage though is just huge, especially in this day and age.
right.
Let's talk about Razroo because I do want to talk about that, but that was interesting. Now, honestly, what you said about traveling the world, maybe you can cover that quickly as well.
At this point, there have been three locations I've been at.
Okay.
And it's interesting how even discussing one of those locations and the current dynamic is a little bit controversial. But I am, I very actually I think, boy, this is going to be a snippet that you can definitely get controversy over. But
Uh-oh.
that I'm not sure, what your ethnical background or whatever is. To me, it doesn't matter. But I think I very much so don't like talking about the fact that I'm Jewish a lot. I think a lot of Jewish people do it way too much. So I try and just not talk about it. And that's
Right.
that clip that maybe would get controversy. But yeah, my father actually is a rabbi. So he actually, yeah, which is the whole back. That's not my background, but at least it was when I was growing up. So I spent 4 years actually in Israel, from let's say from 26 to 30. And I was actually coding and building a software company at that point. I spent a little bit of time in London, and I spent
Wow.
time in four different states in New York, Texas, Chicago, and Los Angeles. So Houston, Chicago,
Hmm.
Chicago for high school, New York for late adulthood, Houston for college, teenage years, and then LA I spent when I was a kid, and we would go there for summers. So I think one thing definitely being exposed to these different countries is how beautiful. I think the most important piece is how wonderful the United States actually is. I know some people decide to go to other countries, and to them it's not. They decide to live there, but after being in the UK and after being in Israel, I think actually America is just a wonderful place, and I'm grateful that my ancestors immigrated here, so you don't have to go through that process. And then also the tax system
Yeah.
America, although things are changing with this, I forget what this rule is, but R&D amortization or whatever, I think that
Yes.
a lot of us are going to see that soon on our, which is huge. It's like if you make if you spend $1 million on your developers, you have to spend still $200,000 in taxes, where that was not the case um,
Yep.
already like a year or two ago. So it's a big deal here in the United States. About 20% more as a consultant, and also paying 20% less as a corporation, being in the time zone of like these, been able to get on the phone here in the United States with multiple billionaires just simply because I wanted to. Like I was able to reach out
Really?
to someone like Paul Orlafia from Kinko's. I've spoken to Alexis Ohanian from Reddit. I've been able to speak to the Zillow CEO, be able to talk to the person from Intuit. So it's a really unique and remarkable place, and I think that's the biggest takeaway for me. Besides maybe picking up an extra actual speaking language, that's the biggest piece, which is just how good I have it here in the United States, and how much I should take advantage of the market side of things. I think having a very large market, having access to that is the greatest strength, and it should kind of lean into maybe like the sales side of things or marketing to people that are around you and that sort of stuff, or being able to consult for them. That would be my biggest takeaway.
Absolutely. If you want to be an entrepreneur, there's no place like the United States. It doesn't even compare. I've traveled around the world quite a bit. Not, I don't think I haven't lived in other places for as long as you have. I've always
Right.
lived in Texas until recently in California. And there's nothing like the United States, you know. And maybe in some ways it's because we know the United States so well and we know how it works compared to the rest of the world. We do have a lot of stuff really well put together, especially in certain states. And my co-founder, I know he feels the same way. We do love the United States and the opportunities provided, especially to entrepreneurs.
Right.
How, let's talk about Razroo. That is your product.
We're updating the landing page. If you were an investor, to simplify things, I would just simply say it's a AI ticketing platform. Right now, that's the main goal. So we have this product we've been working on. And when you're creating a ticket, you just
Mhm.
kind of have like a blurb of 5 or 6 words in mind. I want to create a marketplace for water bottles. And then you put that into the ticket, and then it just constructs this ticket for you. And it actually pulls your data from your designs and then also from your relevant code base. And it creates your code snippet, it creates your story points or whatever. So we built this product that's very novel and competes with very large names that allows you to really be very hands-off from your day-to-day ticketing system. You don't have to worry about who you're assigning it to. You don't even have to create new sprints. It does it for you. And
Mhm.
you don't have to worry that much about ticket creation because the AI is there. We have a very intuitive editing experience. So if the AI fails, as a user, you can go in and sort of just tidy things up really quickly. So that's the main product that we have. From a larger idea of sort of what gets me up in the morning with regards to Razroo is this idea of human, and we have also a coding platform, but it's this idea of human collective intelligence. The human collective intelligence aspect is the recognition that AI isn't going to be perfect. And that also with AI, you still need to pipe it into different tooling and different products in order to get to where you need to be. So the idea is let's have a rating mechanism, let's have a quality assurance mechanism, like a peer review system before data gets uploaded into the system. And let's create a very nuanced um, peer review and quality system for code design and tickets initially. And then what we allow is for people to say, I want to create authentication for my React application.
Mhm.
And then they're able to then pull off 15 or 20 pre-made tickets that people have already made. And they're also able to pull off pre-made code and pre-made designs. And it's not using AI. It's actually, it used the AI to create this human-made tickets or design or code, but it's actually it's this Razroo quality assurance mechanism and rating mechanism and also notification system that now allows it for this perfect data to now be retrieved by people. And so right now we focus on infrastructure related items. So that's the MVP with regards to human collective intelligence that really sets us apart from the rest
Mhm.
of the AI folks. And so for the coding system, it's relatively advanced right now. The human collective intelligence, we have Angular, Next.js, and AWS. We have human uploaded code into the system, and so people can use that for infrastructure. But that's the larger idea, and we want to move past just the software. Our goal is to actually go to robotics actually at the earliest opportunity. So
Really?
yeah, so it's a very big idea, and right now we're rolling out these AI products, which is the bridge to quick human collective intelligence uploading of tickets and design and code. So we're kind of in our phase one right now of building the base of AI products, and then our phase two is then getting enough of that human collective intelligence there. We monetize that via marketplace, so people can buy and sell their human collective intelligence data if they want to, or via subscription sharing. And then phase three is to move into beyond the initial category of software that we have, is then to move over to robotics and to allow people to do the same thing, to be able to, whatever, let's say let's say someone wants to build like a humane AI chip lookalike or
Right.
whatever. So now they can go into their console, type into this and say like, hey, I want to build this base that someone else already created using human collective intelligence, or even via AI with this phase one, and then sort of ship that out. So that's sort of the trajectory of that. And it's super interesting where it's going. But right now, the main recognition for me personally as an entrepreneur is that it's a very ambitious idea, and we're not going to get to human collective intelligence anytime soon at scale. So right now we're just building AI products to help us get a very solid foundation for our company. And the ticketing system that we have right now has a tremendous amount of potential to go from 0 to
Yeah.
100 really quickly. And we're just kind of leading into that as our sort of our V1.
I like that. I like that
Yeah.
a lot because the idea you said about the ticketing system makes complete sense to me. And it sounds like you can kind of use that, possibly kind of bootstrap the rest of the more intense product development that you want to do later on.
Yeah, and it's really difficult to get to that place. Like you don't get to that realization from day one, and it really only happened once AI became more advanced in the past 6 months. Like only once
Yeah.
the vision models started being commonplace was when this product was even possible to do, and that was only in the past 6 months. So it was really a race, whatever, run to the races or whatever moment for us. But I think that's where a lot of, I think right now with the entrepreneurship, just being around in tech for whatever the
Yep.
past 11 years or whatever, it's with the exception of like when the iPhone was around, and I remember a bunch of my friends making, I remember a bunch of people making apps and getting really wealthy from it or whatever, and that was like the hot
Hmm.
thing. But yeah, right now with the fact that you can take an existing category, or there are actually a lot of new categories, and you can build an AI product with it and then make considerable amounts of income from. It's there's been no easier time for me personally is to build these software products. So
Yeah, I think that's fantastic because AI is such a big thing right now. It is a bit of hype, I think, going on. But if you can leverage that hype and build a product that truly solves, a pain point for people, I mean, why
right.
not jump on that train? Because I definitely missed, it sounds like you did also, but I definitely missed the app thing. My co-founder caught some of it because he was a kid then and created kind of an app with a company, and that's how he kind of got his start. But he didn't directly, financially benefit substantially from it. Oh, what was I going to ask you? Oh, with Razroo, how many employees do you have at this point? Is it just you and a small team, or how? What's the situation?
We have right now, we're at the smaller side of what we've ever been. We're very lean right now. We have three
Got it.
full-time software engineers. So
That's very impressive, though.
yeah, there is a software team that every day, we talk via Slack, create tickets for them. Maybe that's part of the reason why I wanted Razroo to exist, because I was like,
Yes,
this is a bit overwhelming to create all these tickets, and I'd
it
rather have
is.
AI do the heavy lifting for me. So
It
yeah,
really is, and you're kind of dog fooding, right? You're solving your
exactly,
own pain point.
exactly.
And
As a
honestly,
Yeah, we're actually moving from Jira to Razroo tomorrow as a team. That's our
Jira,
official. Everyone uses Jira, and it hasn't
everyone
changed.
does.
And it will have its place. If they ever see our product, we love Jira. We would love to work together. But it's a new category that Jira won't necessarily be able to move into due to just it has to
Probably
be
not.
built from the ground up in order for it to work. It has its own unique AI. It
Yep.
has abstracts on the right side, and it has version history on the left side, and you can highlight and select text, to modify using AI and all that stuff, and you can chat. It's just its own thing. But yeah, we're definitely dog fooding is a huge thing.
That is awesome. Jira gets a very bad rap, but a lightweight Jira installation is not that bad, to be honest.
Yeah,
It's
agreed.
it's when a corporate team, as you probably have been exposed to. I mean, it's when they take over and add all this process to it and all these rules and stuff.
Yeah,
And like you said, or like you alluded to, I doubt Jira could move into that space at this point. That people don't know like how slow an enterprise team moves, if at all. Like they will go
right.
backwards.
It's so healthy as a startup founder to be a part of an enterprise team because the amount
100%.
of confidence that I have is like up here that we can
Up,
beat them.
there's no question.
I've seen those teams push forward like 5 tickets in 2 weeks because
Yep.
uh, there's no one telling anybody on the team to do anything, and they're just like, all right, we're still getting paid for this. And the people that have good ideas are sort of, outliers, and they're sort of pushed out of the company. And that's sort of they don't want to be there. They do have numbers, so as long as that product's there, it will keep growing an audience.
Jira would be laughing at us if they saw this right now, but because
Yeah.
they're making a lot of money, but they absolutely are targeting a completely different audience. One thing bootstrappers need to know is that it is a great strategy, in my opinion, to target an enterprise product, right? Niche down a bit to maybe a subset of their customers and create a product that is specifically tailored to those people.
Mhm.
Um, because an enterprise team is never going to care. They have to chase huge markets. A VC funded startup is very similar. They have to solve a problem that's so large that the investors get paid off from, the tons of market share they're gaining,
Mhm.
and as the value of the company goes up. So it's great. I mean, we're bootstrapping also, obviously, and we love it right now. And your product, the code generator, that's launched, right?
Yeah, that's launched and it's a remarkable piece of technology. It's the difficulty with our coding platform is that started before AI existed.
Got it.
And so that was a purely human collective intelligence product where we're uploading and we have tons of stuff into the system. The executive decision of this AI thing is much easier to build
Hmm.
and it has across the board functionality and it has a much larger impact. So let's take us now that we're in this stage. I don't want to be hurt by previous work that I've done. So
Right.
let's go back and build AI products. Let's like step one, I look at like AI one behind human collective intelligence now. So we're almost done with our ticketing platform, and then we're going to go back to the coding platform and integrate. We already have a large part of AI with that system already, but we're going to tie up any loops there, and we're going to have a co-pilot like thing. And you can also grab code snippets from within your code editor by putting in a comment and searching, typing SS, and we'll give you code snippets. There are a couple of demos there on the Razroo YouTube channel. You can also generate
Hmm.
infrastructure for your applications. That's the main piece that we're leaning into. There are a couple of like indie developers that have actually made like it's an insane amount of money. They've made like close to $500,000 or 700,000 or $1 million over the past year of just creating like these starter boilerplates. So once we started seeing those numbers and realizing the market's there for infrastructure, we started gravitating the entire Razroo mechanism towards just AWS and Next.js, like the two largest markets, and just focusing on that, which works well with Razroo because Razroo is very good at isolating code and making sure it's high quality and well documented. And so a lot of these people that are kind of just belting it out don't have the mechanism there to organize at scale. So they end up just building one repo with back end and front end sort of meshed together.
Hmm.
So for us, so we recognize, okay, that's what we can do well. And a lot of teams want that because they want to build it properly the first time around. It's as a starter founder, it's kind of like even bad code in the early days can really get in your face because when you're trying to demo to somebody, it still needs to work. So if you
Right.
end up having code that doesn't work, and then you go back to the engineering team and they're like, well, we have to refactor this or whatever. So it just helps a lot to have like no code definitely has its place. And I've seen people actually, like I know you mentioned white labeling. I've seen entrepreneurs white label and actually make a profit. But for the people that have more technical sided product like ourselves where we need to code it out. Um, and so yeah, I think there are a lot of founders that are in a similar boat like that. So that's the market that we're in, and we're hoping to launch that in about 2 weeks. So it should be a very healthy additional revenue on top of our existing ticketing system to have this marketplace for infrastructure as well.
That sounds great. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. And to start to kind of wrap things up, what based on your experience with Razroo and kind of everything else that you've done, is there one, and this is a huge question, but is there one kind of like core piece of advice you've been thinking of lately that you would give to someone who's, maybe just starting out or they've launched their product and are trying to grow it? What are your thoughts there? Like, what's the biggest thing you think you've learned, at least lately?
Yeah, I think about this one just a lot lately because bootstrapping is not easy and there's a lot of people that I've hurt in this journey just unintentionally,
Right.
just by them either getting laid off or not having the money for a particular partnership or whatever.
Mhm.
And I think just the most important piece I can tell people is, for me at least, and maybe it applies to some other people as well, is just your journey is going to be unique to yourself, and don't try and think about, and you don't actually realize, but your journey is actually very similar to some of these much larger names that you see, like maybe Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or I don't know, Sam Altman or whatever. And
Hmm.
so don't try and remove the emotional side of things from your entrepreneurship. Don't try to overwork yourself. I think try and just be very conscious of the world around you as it's happening, and try and build more as an entrepreneur. And that's my advice for me, coming from a side where it's I have an aptitude for just working hard and just showing up every day, and I have to put in double amounts of consciousness to make sure I'm not hurting the people around me. So for me, that's the most important piece of advice for me right now. I'm not sure if it applies to everyone else. It's a very weird piece of option. Be conscious of the people around you, being that because you are in a leadership position and you do have a lot of people that you're impacting. I actually just looked at LinkedIn the other day, and we have 17 alumni from Razroo that are actively on LinkedIn
Wow.
right now. Of those 17, only 4 people are actively part of the company, but these are all people that started with us. They all got themselves in new positions or whatever, and the people that they're going to impact. So just a very large role. And you have so many employees already. So the amount of people that you're impacting already. So yeah, that's it.
I know exactly what you're saying. One thing I do often say, and this came directly from my experience both in bootstrapping and in the corporate space, is that building a product is ultimately it's not really about the product. It's about the people and the team you build, and then the customers you serve. And I've also realized that over the past couple of years. So it's interesting that you've had the same kind of learnings as me, especially lately. But I guess it makes sense. Um, Charlie, I've got to get going, but I really
Yeah,
loved talking to you today. I didn't expect us to have so many parallels, so that was
yeah,
super, super interesting. I'm going to include a link in the video description to razroo.com, your Twitter, because I love your content, and
yeah,
please keep it up. And we should meet up again over Zoom sometime, or if
yeah,
you're ever in San Diego, like let me know. We should
yeah.
get a drink if you do that. But let me know how Razroo or the new product you're launching as part of Razroo goes. I'm
Yeah,
really
I'm
interested in that.
sure we'll look into Stammer as well. Maybe we'll use it as a product or whatever. It's
Sounds
it's good
good.
business. It's good business when startups have different products they can use, and they choose, their fellow startup friends.
Have a great day, Charlie. Really
All
great
right,
to meet you
likewise.
finally.
Likewise. All right,
All right,
bye.
bye.